What do most Fortune 500 executives have in common? They learned important lessons on the fields and courts of their high school and collegiate sports teams. This is true for both men and women. Ernst & Young found that a whopping 94% of women holding a C-suite position played sports. Their wins and losses shaped their habits and who they would become. Join me on my journey to sit with some of the brightest executives in the world as we discuss how sports shape their professional trajectory. In partnership with Chief Executive Magazine, the voice of America's CEO community, I'm your host, Don Yeager, and this is Corporate Competitor Podcast. With me for today's episode is the CEO of Torchy's Tacos, GJ Hart. GJ has a remarkable track record of success at some of the country's most prominent restaurant businesses. Over 35 years in the industry, he served as executive chairman and CEO of California Pizza Kitchen and CEO of Texas Roadhouse, where during his 10 years there, he transformed the brand, overseeing growth in revenue from $63 million per year when he arrived to more than $1 billion annually when he moved. He wanted to take on one more challenge when he decided to head to Austin in 2018 to join the rocket ship that is Torchy's Tacos, one of the fastest growing brands in America. A proud graduate of James Madison University, GJ wanted to offer opportunities to students like himself, and in 2012 made a substantial donation of his time and resources that led the university to place his name atop the Hart School of Hospitality, Sport, and Recreation Management. GJ's heart, work ethic, and capacity for taking risks paved his leadership journey.
To this day, hire for attitude over skill, because you can teach the skill, you can't teach the attitude. If you think about all the people you meet in life, who are the ones you are attracted to? The ones that appear to have the right attitude, the right approach, that come across as sincere. You've got to approach everything in a way that if you want it, you've got to work that much harder than the next person. You've got to continue to grow and learn and be better each and every day. And you've got to do it with an attitude, because attitude's everything to be successful.
GJ, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you, Don. Always good to see you, man.
Well, I love that today you're our first international interview. You're actually down in Costa Rica while doing this call. So this is incredible that we get this chance to hear from you and that you would take this time even while traveling. You know, reading your background, learning more about you. You're 5 years old. Your family moves from the Netherlands to New Jersey, probably a typical travel plan for most people. And you've talked about how the work ethic of your parents during those humble beginning years had so much impact and influence on you. Share a little about, as you watch them make that transition, what it taught you.
Yeah, well, if you think for a moment what the amount of courage that they must have had to say, look, we're going to give up our life in the Netherlands and just go to a new land and a new country, try to make a life better for their children. That's a pretty big step and pretty bold. And just the struggles of the world's not just there to give you things, you have to go get it. And what's required to be successful, or whatever you define success to mean, but you still have to feed your family, feed yourself, create an environment where you can thrive and grow. The trials and tribulations of that period of time was significant. Things like having to make furniture because they couldn't afford to go buy furniture. Everybody's got a story, but I just think my parents, the courage it took to do that was significant. And in many ways that helped frame that, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You need to put yourself out there. You need to have confidence and believe in yourself.
Yeah.
If you want something bad enough, you'll go get it. And it doesn't always come easy.
Yeah. If you want something bad enough, you have to go get it, even if it involves an incredibly long trip across the ocean to go make it happen.
Yep.
As a child, you began playing sports. You love basketball. What do you remember? Early days, just playing hoops.
I think the number one thing is that it takes a heck of a lot of practice to get good at something. It takes a whole lot of discipline to do something over and over and over again. If you want to win, you've got to be your very best, which means that you're constantly learning, you're constantly pushing yourself, you're constantly put yourself out there to fail, to be candid. And you do fail and you pick yourself back up and you get back in it. And you have that internal fortitude to continue to move on and realize you can learn from that. Basketball was just something I hang on to. If I were to say why basketball versus football or any other sport, I couldn't probably answer that question other than shooting a ball through a hoop seemed to be a little bit more sane than knocking my head in a football helmet, I guess. I don't know.
And in basketball, you got pretty good. In high school, you're on the team there at Lee High School. Coach was James Diggs. And I had the chance to look at your high school yearbook as we were prepping for this. And I love this caption under a picture: clutch player GJ Hart led the assault against enemy clubs. I love it. You were clutch even then. So what do you remember about those days competing on that team at Lee?
Well, I was always willing to try to take a lead and try to get the team to come together to achieve something. As a point guard, that's what you do, right? You set the stage, you're constantly directing and asking people to do certain things. And getting people to unite as a team is really about a common vision. What I remember is always putting myself out there and wanting to do that. If you think about it, you have a group of people, who's going to take the leap to say, hey, I'm going to take charge here. And that's just something I did from a very, very early age. Then role modeling with that behavior that your expectations are, whether it's in basketball, whether it's in business, it's role model behavior that you want emulated or you want people to believe into.
Mhm.
All of us are good at something. And so it's providing respect for every single person. So as a team, everyone can contribute. They need to understand where they fit and what their role is, and that you respect them for that. And I think that's ultimately carries through in the business world as well.
I love the point guard business leader analogy. You can't win the game by yourself. You have to distribute. You have to find the right people. You have to make sure you're putting them in the right position to be successful,
All right.
giving them the ball when they can be most successful. I mean, there's just so many wonderful parallels there between what you did then, just in high school, and what you even have had the chance to do over all these years.
Yeah, it's really true, right?
Yeah. Do you remember any lesson from Coach Diggs that you learned that you think about from those athletic days even today?
Having high expectations to be and do it well takes practice, discipline, and that's something he was just incredibly passionate about. There was no skimping, there was no cutting corners. You had to do it a certain way, and you have to practice it and practice it and practice it. When you don't, let's do it all over again. That goes back to, if you want something bad enough, you got to go get it, and you have to be willing to pay the price to do that. He was tough, tough coach, but that's okay because that's how you win.
Yeah. Well, tough wasn't something you ran away from. In fact, while you were at JMU, I listened to a story you gave where you talked about working at the Shenandoah Valley Poultry Company in Bridgewater, and your job there was to hang turkeys, right? And eventually you worked your way all the way up to becoming co-owner of the company in 8 years. But you've talked a little bit about a tough boss you had there who made you better yourself so that, frankly, the quote you used was you wouldn't get yelled at. There, you're kind of going the opposite extreme on a boss. What did you learn in that experience? When you start talking about how a boss communicates with you, this seems to be quite the extreme in the other direction.
Well, look, at the end of the day, he was a mentor to me, albeit that the way he would go about trying to get the best out of you. I learned what not to do because it's not something that I like, to be in a position of being fearful of what you need to get done and to do it well. But at the same time, I knew he had care and concern for me. I knew he, was coming from a good place, that he wanted me to be best, treated me almost like a son over the years, and always was supportive of me and my growth. You can set very high expectations, but do it with care and concern and lead with your heart and show you that you truly, truly care about those people.
Yeah.
A way that you earn respect is by being genuine and being out there and showing that you do have respect, accepting of all people, and that all of us have a place on this earth to do something good. Those are the kind of lessons that I learned, albeit it was the opposite or a 180 from the way he was. But yet underneath of it all,
Was the heart.
he had all those same traits. Yeah.
But so what I love about that, again, all of us are seeking mentors. Sometimes the things we can learn from a mentor might be something we see that we don't necessarily want to emulate. Doesn't mean they're a bad mentor. In fact, it could mean they're the most important person in your life, but we don't have to adopt and adapt to everything that we learn. We can, in fact, take some and discard and say, that's not something I want to do.
All right.
Back to basketball. The sport is fast paced. You got to make quick decisions. As you said, sometimes you fail and you fail in front of other people, and that's never fun or exciting. But what skills do you think you were able to translate from time on the court, playing a game, leading a team, point guard, into the career you've chosen in hospitality?
Don't ever give up, number one. In a basketball game, if you're losing, it's one step at a time, one basket at a time, and you wake up and you're getting real close. It's role modeling behavior. It's about the willingness to stick it out deep within when you have to dig deep to continue on when you're so tired and worn out that you've got to outdo your opponent in basketball. In business, it's having that stick-to-itiveness. You can be anything you want to be. Again, if you're willing to pay the price, and paying the price means it's not easy and it's super difficult. And when you think you can't, you can't.
Yeah.
I had a coach that would run sprints until somebody got sick. Well, I wasn't going to be me, and I was going to do it better than anybody else. And it's that teaching of put yourself out there, continue to do more, and you'll be better. A little bit of fear and a little bit of just continuing to try to outdo the next person.
Yeah, no question. Because of the circumstances and the way that you were growing up, you were always working from a very early age. Baseball umpire as a kid, dishwasher at a Howard Johnson's. Tell me about that idea that, yes, sports shaped you, but also this work ethic piece and constant willingness to look and find new ways to be out there working were so important to you. Tell me about how that period there, when you were making choices, had to help pull you to become the person and the leader that you are today.
To be honest, in a situation where I watched my parents truly struggle in this country to figure out how they were going to make their way, I specifically remember a situation with my dad where he was in between jobs. My dad was a big guy, and I saw him as larger than life. And one day I saw him sitting on the side of the bed in our small little house. He didn't know I saw him. He was just, had his head down in tears. He had been laid off. He was really upset about like what was he going to do next. At that moment, I said to myself, like, I'm not going to let that happen to me. You've got to approach everything in a way that if you want it, you've got to work that much harder than the next person. You've got to continue to grow and learn and be better each and every day. And you've got to do it with an attitude, because attitude's everything to be successful. In fact, to this day, hire for attitude over skill, because you can teach the skill, you can't teach the attitude.
Wow.
If you think about all the people you meet in life, who are the ones you are attracted to? The ones that appear to have the right attitude, the right approach, that come across as sincere. There's people that you can latch onto and feel like you can trust.
Yeah.
That's a key element in leadership in everything that you do. Trust is over time. And the only way you do that is by being your real self and showing your real self.
Wow. I love it. Here's one of my takeaways for today. So you're preparing for college. You're committed. You're going to school. And there were some basketball scholarship offers there that you could have pursued, but you chose to go a different route. Tell us what that was like when you're making that decision. You're going to pursue it differently. And was there anyone while doing this that maybe played a role in helping you make these choices?
It was really more about what was the need and seeing that I needed to earn money. If I was going to get ahead, I needed to get out there. And then, I had to help at home, and I was fortunate enough to be able to start making some money and help my parents along and take that stress and strain on me and being their son. I could take care of myself. A lot of it was out of need and necessity. While education was super important, I thought it was time that I also get out there and start to earn a living. Basketball was great, but it was not going to go any further for me. And I realized that at an early age. So much of this was more around what I saw as necessity to be able to start to get into the workplace and take care of myself and move forward.
Yeah, those are tough realizations, right? When you've got to sit and figure out now what's the best way to go make a living or make enough money that it can keep me in school, which allowed you to work on some of the things you've done, especially around higher education. So impressive. I want to ask you, the premise of this podcast is that a disproportionate number of Fortune 500 executives actually have a history in sports, both in high school and college levels. And I know that you work among other former athletes. Some of those that you've been around have athletics in their background as well. Now, we're not trying to predict causation here, right? That being an athlete makes you a better leader. But do you think there is a truism to the idea that sports helped shape you as the leader you are today?
Without a doubt. As we've been talking, I used the example around being a point guard, which essentially is the quarterback of the team, which is what I was, the leader of the team out on the court and making the decisions and ensuring people do the right things at the right times, that you're carrying out that play that you are going to execute against. That's your job. Those things do carry through the business. At the end of the day, as a CEO of a company, your job is to be out front, to see what's around the next corner and provide the knowledge and the brutal facts around what's there and how do we tackle that. And in addition to all of that is just doing it in a way that's sincere, genuine, totally in transparency and being a good role model. I think all those things are true in sports. And so you learn those things by being that leader out on the court.
I love it.
People will follow those that they feel comfortable, that they trust in, that they believe will get them to the right place. That's what happens in basketball. If you're the leader of the team, people will follow. And as a result, you bring the best out in them because you put them in the right places at the right times doing the right things.
You've grown through your professional career to a number of different companies. And you talk about that ability to engender trust, to draw people to believe in you. When you're coming into a new environment, how do you get them to not roll their eyes and think of you like your predecessor or the person before that and actually trust you? Is there something that you specifically do, an action you take to try to drive trust?
Yes, the first is allow people the opportunity to see who you are, what's behind the curtain as best you can, sort of like opening up your coat and saying, okay, here I am, this is who I am. You'll learn to understand who I am. I don't expect you at this moment to trust me, but my goal would be that you see that I have the ability to earn that respect from you as a result of my behaviors and actions. That's number one. Number two, listen. Listen to people before you run your mouth and say you're going to do a specific strategy or here's where we're going to go. You have to seek to understand. And the only way you seek to understand is give people a voice and listen to their voice in a way that is truly hearing what it is they're saying so they feel comfortable. Just like you're doing with me on an interview, you're getting me to answer questions because I'm letting down my guard because I feel comfortable with you. It's the same thing in leadership. You have to provide that environment where they can feel comfortable enough to tell you what's really on their mind. Listening is the second part of that. And then setting the stage where people feel like they had a voice, they start to understand why they matter in whatever the vision of the organization is, and that you're going to provide that vision, that unity by bringing people together. That leadership is rooted in the values around trust.
I love the way you open that idea that you come in and instead of saying, trust me, you're saying, I'm going to guess you might not trust me. Give me the chance. I believe you will. So even by giving them the out of understanding that you're not expecting that just because you have the CEO title, they have to trust you. The acknowledge of that in its own way has an authenticity to it that has to be meaningful.
Exactly. It's not that you're better than anybody else. You just have a role to achieve a certain vision, and that's what you're there to do.
We'll be back after this.
Your business phone service should not be complicated to set up, manage, and use. Nextiva connects your phone system with business apps, AI, and automation on a single platform to run your business. With their easy to use dashboard, you will be able to connect with your team and customers all in one place. Nextiva, powering communication across the Pac 12 and now the Corporate Competitor Podcast.
Welcome back to Corporate Competitor Podcast. You know, you've never been one to shy away from challenges.
Right.
And I know you've said that leaving your role at Copeland, one of the franchisees of Popeyes, to actually go join Texas Roadhouse, big jump, which proved to be enormous in your career. But there was a risk in you making that jump.
Right.
Tell me about that risk and your belief, as you said, nothing risked, nothing gained.
Well, first is really having self-actualization about where you really are. And at the time, where I really sat in an organization and what I had tried to achieve within Copeland's, which was a lot of fun and it was a great experience and learned a tremendous amount. Just understanding where I was and where did I want to go was on my mind. The second thing is, in the case of Texas Roadhouse, I had the opportunity to meet Kent Taylor, the founder, at a YPO event. We hit it off right away. And I had heard of Texas Roadhouse, but I didn't really know Texas Roadhouse. Hearing him talk, his vision and what he wanted to try to do with the organization was incredibly compelling to me. And at the time, there were other state concepts coming out that competed with Texas Roadhouse. So it's things like the Logans and the Lone Star Steakhouse and the Longhorns and all those type folks all around red meat. But his vision of what he was trying to do was unique and special. And he was a true entrepreneur with a vision, and that ultimately knew that he needed other people around him, which is a very uncommon characteristic of entrepreneurs, in my opinion, that they understand you need others to achieve what you want to try to get done. So realizing that he needed some help and he needed to partner with someone. And if you're a person like me who's willing to take that shot, take the risk to do it, nothing ventured, nothing gained, it becomes very compelling.
Wow.
Back to the self-actualization. If you take that opportunity to believe in yourself and you want to be better, then it becomes an easier decision to make. When you like what it is you're doing, the people that are doing it, no matter what the initial stages of that might bring you, which in this particular case was a step back financially. And, this was Texas Roadhouse, small company. It's like, hey, couldn't afford to pay big executives, all that. So taking that step back to buy into the future. Yeah, it was one of the best decisions of my life. And if you look at Texas Roadhouse today, it's arguably one of the most successful restaurant brands in the history of America. And I'm still proud of the fact that I got to be a part of that and still am a part of it, albeit in a different kind of way.
Yeah. But what I love it was that there was a risk there, yes, financially and otherwise, but less of a risk because you believed in the vision and the fact that Kent could so wonderfully articulate it.
Yep, absolutely.
There's a great lesson there too. During your time at Roadhouse, the team transformed the brand, overseeing growth in revenue from 63 million when you arrived there to $1 billion in more than 450 restaurants by the time you transitioned to California Pizza Kitchen. Exponentially incredible growth. What helped that grow so quickly? What was it about the culture of that company that you believed made such a difference?
Giving people a voice, truly being partners in what it is you're trying to achieve. Cultures are by design, not by default.
Yes, sir.
Cultures of inclusiveness, having people feel comfortable enough to be able to give their vision, their voice, and to be heard is becoming more popular, but it's certainly been rare because companies would go at it like, we know exactly how to do it, when to do it, here's how to do it, we're going to tell you how to do it. Versus, you know what, you come into this and you have an idea. Let's see how that idea adds value to the organization and its overall mission, and then move it forward. All tides rise as a result of that. In the case of Texas Roadhouse, the culture was an entrepreneurial spirit. Every restaurant owner had skin in the game. Everybody in the company that was in leadership roles had skin in the game. We have a managing partner program where you have to write a check and sign a contract for the right to be able to run a company owned restaurant, and you get a percentage of the profits. Well, that's skin in the game. So all of a sudden, you're going to do whatever is necessary versus becoming a corporate employee where big bad company is going to take care of you. Companies do the best they can, but their job is not necessarily to take care of you. It's to create shareholder value and carry out the mission. In the restaurant business, so many restaurant people that have grown within the restaurants, they grow to become a key hourly employee. Then they get into the manager program. They become an assistant manager. They become a manager. They become the general manager. And as the general manager, you get to write your own ticket in terms of what shifts you open, you close, when you work, when you don't. So weekends, you're at home watching TV with your family because you work during the week, the 5-day work schedule.
To schedule yourself out of the weekend.
And you have the power to do that because, hey, I've made it. Well, it's the complete opposite. In fact, our job is to serve the people that we lead and then be there, be out front, role model that behavior. Traditionally in our business, weekends do 60, 65% of your business. So you're there Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. And you want to do that anyway, because if you take care of your business when the business is there, you're going to get paid more. You're going to have more satisfaction. You're going to be happier and feel the results. You also have the opportunity to see other people grow within your organization.
I love it.
That very premise is what Texas Roadhouse is set apart from. And you never lose sight of what got you there.
Yeah.
Great food, great execution, through great people doing great things, because you have a culture that's by design, not by default.
Yeah. 2011, you took another big leap. You transitioned to become CEO of California Pizza Kitchens. It was there that I actually had a chance to first meet you. And when I was writing a book on great teams, I actually came to study you because I wanted to learn about the way you were building the team you were doing at CPK. And one of the things that stood out to me was how you brought that competitive spirit to start a certified pizza chef program. And your pizza chefs went through a series of processes and tests, learning at the highest levels how to elevate what you guys were doing. And then you created these amazing competitions between the chefs. How did creating that competitive environment for your chefs help elevate what you were attempting to do there as a leader?
Well, it's that competitive spirit and learning together. All of us learn different ways. In the restaurant space, in that particular case, it was, how do you execute the end product with love and make everyone unique and special? The way I feel like you do that is people doing it learn from each other. All tides rise as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Learning what works for me and what works for the next guy or the next gal. What can I learn to be better? And what better way to do that is to create a competition. But the competition is about the positive bit. You celebrate the people winning. You don't beat up the people that aren't necessarily at the top. You provide an environment where the ones that are struggling, not doing as well, want to do better because their teammates are going to continue to help them get better and learn. And to create that environment of inclusiveness and wanting to do more and wanting to be better. At the end of the day, somebody has to win. And that's why competitions are what they are, to have that within you, but yet do it in the form of a positive way of celebration. Those folks, by the way, on the front lines have to wake up every day to execute the mission of the company in the restaurant space. And that's great food executed at the highest level. What better way to be there to help them, to set them up for success by serving them in a way to clear the path and create an environment where you put them on a pedestal to say, look at these people competing, learning from each other, having fun and being better.
Yeah.
Yes, competitive, but most importantly, it's about a positive slant on what it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. No, it's been fun to watch the way you're creating different cultures at different organizations. And then when you did leave CPK, you actually did so to go to the position you hold today as the CEO of Torchy's Tacos.
Yep.
I remember when you let me know that you were taking this move, I thought, are you kidding me? Like, you have this great big national brand, Torchy's Tacos, but it's so unbelievable what you all are doing there. Some people would have thought it was a risk for you to come and do that. What was it about this brand and what you've learned as a leader that made you want to come be part of what they're doing?
I had come to the conclusion that I was going to do something different. In fact, there was an article written, I was retiring from CPK. Next day, they announced Torchy's. I think it was less than 12 hours or something like that. But to be honest, I was really at a point in my career where I wanted to slow down a bit. I've always shortchanged family to do what I do, to be candid, and having grandkids and finally realizing, had the ability to slow down a bit. I had consciously made that decision. So it was even more risk on, to be candid, because when I got the phone call, I'd already made that announcement. And I was still at CPK doing what I was doing, but it really intrigued me. It got me going as this entrepreneurial concept that was unique, special, definitely differentiated. The risk was that here my wife thought I was going to finally, spend some time and enjoy a family. And I said, hey, how about making a trip to Austin, Texas from Newport Beach, California? And I think I can't say it on this podcast, but she had a few choice words for me, as you can imagine. But she went with me, as she always has. And we get down. And why was it so special? Because Mike Ripka, who founded Torchy's in a beat up old trailer in a bad section of Austin, someone that you gravitate towards as a result of their tenacity to see something through and belief in something with those special characteristics as a human. Very genuine person, committed, passionate around food and what he wanted to do, classically trained chef, and just a great human being. And here we are today, a very fast growing company, seeing that this was an opportunity to make a mark in the restaurant industry again in a differentiated concept in classic form of falling in love with something that the opportunity and what can be if you put your mind to it.
Mhm.
You can imagine the negotiations in home life to try to do this. I'm having an absolute blast because we've got something very special. It's all centered around a unique, special culture, great people doing great things.
But what I love is that when you're talking about Kent Taylor, Roadhouse, what attracted you was an entrepreneur willing to realize he needed people around him. That's really what I understand your relationship with Mike Ripka is too.
Right.
But he realized that to elevate what he wanted to do, it required someone like you to come join him and lock arms.
Again, it's that realization of an entrepreneur that you need people to help you get to where you want to go. And it's that unique trait, being genuine and being truly, hey, what you see is what you get. If you ask Mike Ripka today, he wouldn't tell you he's something super special, even though he is something very super special, because he's just a humble human being and he'd rather give than take from anybody. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Those are the kind of people you want to go through life with.
They really are. You know, I did have a chance to watch a speech you delivered at James Madison called Lessons in Leadership, in which you shared the 6 strategies for effective leaders that you believe are most important. Would you share them? Would you teach us a little bit on your ideas on effective leadership?
Happy to, Don. This is just over the years and how I've put together what I think is important to be a great leader. And going in with the premise that so goes the leader, so goes the rest. It'll be on my tombstone. It is so true. In our business, so goes the leader of a restaurant, so go the rest of the team. Your success is based on that leader. Our job as leaders is to get people to see beyond what they think they're capable of. So beyond their own expectations.
Mhm.
If you think about that, that's really hard to do. If you think, how in the world do you get another human being to do something they don't even know that they could do or be willing to even try? So the very first thing around leadership is to be the best that you can be. Right out of John Wooden, it's not win at all costs. It's be the best you can be, which means that you're a constant student of life, just constantly trying to be a better human, trying to learn to be the best. Because in order to get people to exceed their own expectations, you've got to be able to have that self-actualization yourself. Number 1 is be the best you can be. Number 2 is to dream really, really big. Because as a leader, you need to set the vision. You need to create an environment. What's your dream of where you want to be? You may never get there, but if you don't have a place to get to, you don't start. So dream big and have people follow you and join you and be willing to go after that dream. The third one is to show who you are, be genuine. It's show people you have a heart. It's not that you don't have high expectations or demands or responsibilities for people, but it's to lead with your heart first. I don't care if you went to kindergarten or you're a graduate of Harvard, top of the class. People know whether or not you're genuine and you care and you show that through your heart. Then the next is once you do all that, is trust the people you lead. In our business, so many people grow up within the industry. So they know how to do the skill, they do the role really well. They don't necessarily know how to lead. They have to trust those people to do what they do. You've given them that opportunity for them to grow. So trust them to do it. They will let you down, but that's leadership. You pick the person back up, you brush them up, you give them some pats on the back, and then you kick them in the butt. The discipline, right? So trust the people that you lead. The fifth thing is to do the right thing. So easy to say, well, we're going to do the right thing. Well, sometimes the right thing goes against the grain of what might be the rules or what might be the process. Be able to discern when that's right and when that's wrong, always. Because on all of us in life, somebody gave us an opportunity. And when we screwed up or we made a huge mistake, someone was there to pick you up and brush you off and give you that fight for another day or to do better and to improve. Well, Same thing in life and in the business. Put yourself out there as the leader to say, I'm going to stand up for this individual who screwed up, but I'm going to put my name behind them and I'm going to trust and give them another opportunity because it's the right thing. That's number 5. And then the last one is probably the most important, is to always remember, no matter how high you go in an organization, in the corporate ladder, the role is to serve others first. So you're not really at the top where they serve you, you serve them. And whenever you lose sight of the fact that you're there to serve people, you're already failing. Years and years of people, lots of books been written about servant leadership. That's truly something that you must role model each and every day. Remember that you are there to serve others. And oh, by the way, you're the winner, because if you serve others and you set them up for success, you provide the environment, the tools that they need to be successful. You listen to these other 5 rules, your job becomes pretty daggone easy. So as a leader, you look the best as a result of being the servant leader. So if you just remember that, it takes courage. There's a reason why it's narrow at the top. It takes courage to do the things I just stated. And it takes courage to put yourself out there, put the organization out there, willing to go against the tide, willing to do what it takes to succeed.
You know what, GJ? I've talked to you for dozens of hours and I never leave without feeling inspired. And right there, I mean, there's a reason why it's narrow at the top. There's a reason why you're there. GJ, it is always an honor to be in your company, to get a chance to learn from you. Today, I thank you for being a corporate competitor.
Thanks, Don. I really enjoyed it and always have fun with you, man.
My favorite lesson from GJ was about trust. In his new role at Torchy's, first, he shared his goal. He said, I want to earn your trust with my behaviors and actions. Then he provided a platform for open communication so he could listen to his team. Then he sought to understand so his team felt comfortable, because GJ knows in times of transition, trust is not a given. Transition requires transparency. If you are looking for more wisdom on building trust and comfort, check out episode 45 with the Vice President of Chick-fil-A, Rodney Bullard. If you could share one habit, one thing you've done consistently that allowed you to separate yourself from your competitors, what would it be? In my 30-year career, 2,500 of the greatest athletes, coaches, and leaders answered that question for me.
This is Don Yeager, who did that that article I was telling you about.
Don, Dave Sims with Coach K. How you doing?
Hey, Don. How you doing, my man? Great, sir.
What they gave to me is what I'm giving to you in my online course, Journey to Greatness. Through engaging storytelling and on-demand videos, you will learn the 16 habits that will jumpstart your personal growth. I will instruct you on how to apply these winning characteristics to your life through custom workbook exercises. We are slashing the price for our podcast listeners. Lifetime access to Journey to Greatness is normally $399, but for our podcast listeners, it will be $49 with the code podcast at checkout. Click the banner on corporatecompetitorpodcast.com to enroll. Thanks for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you left us a rating and a review. We will be rolling out a new episode every Wednesday. To be the first to listen, subscribe to the podcast on our website, corporatecompetitorpodcast.com. Plus, as a thank you gift, you will receive a free chapter from one of my best-selling books on the habits of high-performing teams. Stay in touch by connecting with me on social media at Don Yeager, Yaeger, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Until next week, I appreciate you.